Time for part two. Today's video is all about the French countryside portion of my trip to France, the main part of my trip. This is why I was there. I was there to teach workshops and paint and create. I'm so excited to tell you all about it. If you're new here, I am Annie. I have been a professional artist for 10 years. I just started my YouTube channel a little while ago this summer. It was like spring 2024. So I'm kind of new to this. Obviously, because last video I went through the whole thing without being like, hi, I'm Annie. So anyway, hey, I'm Annie and welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. I appreciate all of you. This has been a really fun adventure and this is part two to my trip in France. So enjoy. A little backstory. I was asked by Cassie of Wandering Women Retreats to be a guest artist for a week-long retreat in France where we stayed at a chateau, and I was hired and taken on to teach 3 workshops, and so that's what I was in France to do. It was an 8-day retreat. There was 1 Canadian, and then the rest of us were all around the US. Every single woman on this retreat was such a delight to spend the week with and such a delight to get to know and so fun. So another cool thing about the group of women on this retreat was there was women from every decade. We had Addie, shout out to Addie, and she was 27, and then we had women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So it was all ranges, which is really cool. This group was just a gift to spend the week with every single one of them. But the week at the chateau, I knew immediately that the French countryside was definitely more my speed. We get to the chateau, big long driveway lined with trees, and it's really dark. And then, like, you know how I said when we were in Paris, like when you're in the dungeon of the metro and it's really dark, and then like you get into the city and it's like, wow. It was like the same thing with arriving to the chateau. We all get there and go down the long driveway, and then like you come out of the trees and it's like this beautiful chateau with the gardens and everything. It was just breathtaking, really. It was so cool. The chateau itself was so beautiful. There was like the main chateau, and that's where we had meals. Well, we had meals all around the grounds, but that's where the dining room was. There were a couple seating areas where we would sit and chill and hang out before meals and stuff. And then there was the dining room, and then the kitchen was in there, obviously. That's where all the ladies in the retreat stayed as well. Again, obviously. Every single room in the chateau had its own theme, like every living area, the dining area, every single bedroom, every seating area, everything, every nook and cranny, like had its own theme and had its own well thought out, curated design, which was unreal. Susie is the owner of the chateau, and she designed it. She was also the chef for the week and prepared our meals and the recipes. And this woman, Susie, you are so talented, so crazy talented. I'm so thankful to have been able to experience all that you have created. And I just think it's the coolest thing that you are sharing your gifts with people from all around the world in this way. Shout out to you. The space that was created with this chateau is truly magical. I don't even know how other way to describe it. And there's just so many layers to it. Like everywhere you look, there's something new. There was the main chateau, and then there was the courtyard area. Then there's a barn on the other side of the chateau. We had some meals in there. There was one night we did a few meals in there, and that was so stunning. Every meal had its own beautiful tablescape with flowers fresh from the garden, which, you know, I love flowers, so I definitely appreciated that. But there was one meal that we had out in the barn that was just breathtakingly beautiful. The tablescape had, I forget what flowers there were, but they were big, tall arrangements, and everything, the whole tablescape and the settings and all of it was so beautiful. I was there to teach 3 workshops. And that was my job for the week. When I wasn't doing the workshops, I was invited to be a participant in the retreat. So with Cassie, who is the host and puts together these retreats, her company is Wandering Women Retreats, and I'll link that below for you. Definitely worth checking out because Cassie hosts retreats in France was one of them, obviously. She hosts retreats in Greece, Italy, Portugal. There's some in the US as well. I believe Santa Fe, I think a new one is Montana. There's a whole bunch of different options. It's a very unique way to travel, especially if you are new to traveling and you really have no idea what you're doing. It's a really cool way to meet people that you wouldn't have ever met before. Cassie puts together the itinerary for the week, so you don't have to be in charge of anything. You just show up as you are and follow along for the ride. And so I got to be a participant of the day trips and all the delicious meals and all the really cool things that were planned throughout the week while I was not teaching. So it was a blast. I wasn't just there to teach. I got to participate in the retreat as well, which was really fun. So yeah, the workshops. This was the kind of the first time that I had done an art workshop like this, like an actual in person. I've done little things throughout the years, but this is the first time I've done an like in-person workshop in this way. So they went really, really well. Like I said, a lot of prep went into them. I worked really hard just because that's the nature of doing anything for the first time. There's a lot of prep involved and making sure you have everything, making sure you know what you're doing, making sure you iron out all the kinks, all of that. I taught 2 watercolor workshops and 1 acrylic floral workshop. And the 3rd workshop was supposed to be kind of like more, it was on the last day, it was like a low-key watercolor postcard type thing. We ended up not doing that and just extending the acrylic floral workshop. And that was kind of like an overflow kind of day. So the ladies who wanted to come paint were able to paint, and whoever needed to like, there were a couple ladies who needed to go into town and pick some things up before they left the Chateau. So that was like kind of an overflow day. I was there to help anyone who needed help. I was there to, I guess, just kind of facilitate and just chill in the studio while we finished up projects and everything. So it's really fun. I would say, and I think all the ladies would agree, the watercolor landscape workshop went the very best. We painted a French countryside inspired landscape, and you know, I feel I had a blast teaching all of them. I think from my perspective that was the most fun to teach just because that was the most well received. I think everyone's gonna have their preferences, and I think as far as a workshop style, that one was the most relaxed. I think we were pretty rested that day too, so I think that may have contributed to it. We were coming off of the day the workshop prior, we were doing the watercolor florals, and everyone was kind of like coming off of jet lag and adjusting to the retreat and like the new surroundings and everything. There was like a lot to take in, and then by the time we got to the watercolor landscapes, I think we're all situated, ready to go, and it was a really nice workshop to go into in the middle of the week. So that one was my favorite. I had a fun time painting that one too. So the studio that we got to teach in, art studio, was an old chapel. So that's the way the setup was, and there was like the old choir loft, and I believe it was original, like the doorways, archways, the original doors, the choir loft, all of it was all original. I'm pretty sure, I would assume it is. It was really beautiful. So the workshops went really well. The meals from this week, that was the best food I've ever had, and also the wine too, French wine. I'm not a wine drinker. I feel like I drink wine, instant headache. It's so bad. I don't know what's in our wine here, but like, again, instant headache. It doesn't make me feel good. I don't like it. I've never enjoyed it, but French wine is a whole different story. It's so good. It was so nice to enjoy wine with all of our meals. I'm a white wine kind of girl, so we had a lot of white wine that week. There was, I don't remember what the name was of our favorite, but I brought 1 bottle home for my husband. He approved too. He said it was really good. I'm trying really hard not to leave any. Oh, so next, the day trips. Like I said, Cassie, who hosts retreat, had a full itinerary. So I was teaching 3 workshops, and then on the other days, they were alternating days. And the days I wasn't teaching workshops, we had day trips planned. And so let's see that we saw a medieval castle. It's so humongous. Our country's not that old, so we don't have those types of things. So seeing like and walking through these historic places, it's like I can't believe these things are still standing. Like this is so old. And then we went through, there were a bunch of cute little towns that we walked through, and again, like all like the really beautiful little cobblestone streets, and the flowers everywhere were so lovely, and the views. So a lot of the views in these towns are overlooking all of the countryside, and from the top of the castle, from the top of this one town that we went to, the cute little, there's shops and cafes and restaurants, and then at the edge of that little cute town was, again, like the most beautiful views, like the kind of views where you get up to and you're not expecting it, and then you're like, wow, it's so cool. This next thing I'm going to talk to you about is the most unexpected part of the trip. We went to a pig roast. Okay, so let me tell you about it. I think it was like a last minute thing. Once a year is like a kickoff of summer for the town that we were staying in. Everyone in the town goes out to this pig roast. And when I've never been to a pig roast, but I know obviously we do them here. I've just never been to one. So I really didn't know what to expect. When we got there, first of all, so much wine. We had so much wine. I'm not a big drinker, but I think all of us drank a lot the night of the pig roast. I think every single one of us. It was so fun. Such a blast. So I get there and I start drinking some wine. Like we're standing there. We also hadn't eaten in a really long time. It was really late. We're all like drinking all this wine on an empty stomach. By the time we get the food, it was like either 8 or 10 o'clock. I can't remember. It was really late. So all of us are like filled up with wine on empty stomachs. Like there's a dance floor at this pig roast, like loud music, lights, the whole 9 yards, everything. It was so fun. The whole entire town was out for this pig roast. Like I wish this was one of those nights I was like, I wish my husband was here. I feel like everyone should experience a pig roast like that. That was definitely something I got to check off my bucket list that I didn't even know was on. I feel like the types of things that end up being the highlight of a trip are the types of things that are unexpected and off the cuff and on the whim, on a whim. So that was really, really cool. I don't have a ton of pictures, but I did take one video of the pig roast, and yeah, so it was really fun, really fun. And then the next morning, that was the one morning where it was an early morning. So I think all of us were like super tired, but that's okay. When in France, you kind of just go with the flow. But the next morning we went to the paper mill, which was so cool. I should know the details on this, but I think it was an 11th century paper mill. It was one of the last 2 in the country or in Europe. We got to make the paper and hear all about the process and all about the mill itself and the history behind it. And we got to see how it was fabric paper. We got to see how that was made. I have some home with me. I brought as much as I could. There wasn't a ton in stock, so I grabbed whatever I was able to. I didn't have a ton of euros left, so I took the euros that I had, and I brought some paper home with me. I'm so excited to paint on it. But that is precious, very special paper. So that is going to be when I am feeling ultra inspired and ready to paint. So those are the day trips. There were so many cool spots. So France was never on my bucket list. After doing Paris and the French countryside and having this experience, it is absolutely on my bucket list to bring my family back and experience it with them. I think it would be unreal if my daughters decided to get married in France. I had to start planting the seed now. One of the first things we asked when I got back was, how are the people? I think as a tourist, it's hard to gauge, and you don't get the full experience of the French people. But as a whole, I think the people were unbelievably welcoming. I feel like when I was in Paris, everyone was so kind. So I don't know what people are talking about with French people being mean, because that wasn't my experience. As a whole, 99.9% of the people that we came across were so welcoming and so friendly, so kind. and so understanding and of this fact that we didn't know French, or that I didn't know French. I never felt like it was difficult to communicate. Another favorite part of the trip was the gardens. The gardens in this chateau were so beautiful, so beautiful. I mean, it's no secret, flowers are like my love language. I could just sit in a garden and just be for hours and hours and hours. I just think it's just the loveliest. I grew up, my dad always had a huge garden. I feel like, you know, I walk out my front door and like there were always plants and gardens, and there's a little oasis. So I have such a deep love and appreciation for beautiful gardens. It was an oasis. It's truly like unbelievable. So many beautiful views overlooking the fields and the cows. And it was another thing side note about the pig roast. We walked to the pig roast because it was not too far from where we were staying at the chateau, and we just walked along the road, and the sun was really bright and like shining down like through the trees, and then the cows were on the side of the road like watching us walk by. It was so sweet. I just loved that part of it so much. It was just very quaint. So that was my time in the French countryside at the chateau, and that was my experience. It was an unforgettable trip, to say the least. My head is filled with inspiration. Paris was really cool, and I'm so glad I did it, but the French countryside and that part of what we got to do was definitely more my speed. We got to experience like the chateau life, and then we got to experience the surrounding towns, and the itinerary was planned out and, you know, with some wiggle room for fun little adventures along the way. So that was a really cool part about traveling with Wandering Women. Cassie does a really good job at adding a lot of variety into the itinerary, and it was full. It was really full, but I don't think I'd take anything out. But that wraps up my videos on my whole excursion through France. So never would I ever have thought that my art would take me to France. It was not something that was on my bucket list, but it is now. I want to take my family back because it was so beautiful. So now that I am back home, we are situated. My studio is still not put together. As you can see, the wall's still blank. The light switch is still not on. And we're still painting the walls, but we're slowly getting back into it. We're still in the midst of summer and enjoying the pool and summer days. And I'm getting back into the swing of things and adjusted now. And I'm ready to start creating videos for you guys again. Lots of painting tutorials while we are in our slow summer days, because I think painting in the afternoon in the summer when you get back from the pool or the park or whatever is like one of my favorite things to do. I think there's nothing better. The kids are good and tired, and the house is clean, and you have a moment of quiet in the afternoon to paint. I think there's nothing better. So I hope to put out a few videos in the next couple weeks that will inspire you to get painting. So stay tuned. So anyway, thanks for listening. That was my trip. It was a blast. If you're on the fence about traveling or feeling like, you know, what's the next place I'm gonna go to, I highly recommend France. It was incredible. So anyway, until next time, have a wonderful day, and I will be back soon. Bye.